Welcome to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam.
Hello everyone, I'm Dani Vilardell. I'm a PhD student at Cornell Tech in New York from Barcelona, and I'm going to talk a bit about our recent project, Liquefaction. First, I want to ask you, do you want to own an ape, a bored ape, for less than $1? If so, I'm going to show you how today. But I'm going to ask you first, who sent this transaction? Yeah, Vitalik sent this transaction. How did you tell that? Well, there's many ways you can tell. First of all, by the ENS name. Also by the history. It's an account that has a lot of ETH. Also, there's a bunch of social signs, and I mean, he may have told people by like his Twitter address or many channels. But what you're making here is something we call the single entity address ownership assumption. You're basically assuming that that one address is owned by one person. It makes sense for that to be the case. I mean, would you share your keys with someone else? No. If you did that, then the person you share the keys with could just steal your money. Well, we show that could be not the case if you do it carefully. What we kind of thought to kind of build a liquefaction is that the keys are just used for signing. But like what you actually use in Web3 are the signatures, not the keys. So what if we don't even like care about the key and we just work on top of the signatures? How can we do that? We basically encumber the key. Key encumbrance is hiding the key inside a TE. You can do that with MPC for those TE haters. We do think that TEs are great and much easier to use, so we'll just assume that we are working with TEs now. But what can you do when you hide your key inside the TE? You can sign messages through the TE. So now I'm a user. I want to send a transaction. Using the address linked to that key, I will just ask the TE to sign that transaction, and it will give me the signed transaction. Why is that more powerful than just owning the key in the first place? You can enforce restrictions on what you can sign and you cannot sign. There's, well, if you do that, you can then no longer sign any messages. And you could, for instance, if you own some DAO tokens, there's a proposal coming on now, but you really don't care about the result. But there may be someone that does care about the result. After all, someone proposed the proposal. So you could just share you could rent the DAO vote for that specific proposal and sell them. How can you do that? You basically enforce this kind of restriction inside the TE and restrict the signature for the DAO vote to whoever pays you the most, an auction system, for instance. And imagine that person won the auction because he really cares about that proposal. Then he can say vote for Carol to the key, and it will return the vote for Carol signed with that key. But what if that person tries to transfer the DAO tokens to another account? The TE will say, nope, you cannot do that. And it's going to restrict you from like stealing the tokens. Well, this is what we kind of started with. We call that Dark DAO. It's a blog post from 2018 by Philippe Dayan. He's the founder of Flashbots and also a previous member of our group. But then we kind of thought further last year about it, and we found that there's so much potential to this key encumbrance system, and that we were just using it to sell DAO votes, but it can be used in many, many more places. So Liquefaction is basically a wallet system for privately liquefying blockchain assets. Any asset, not just DAO votes. It's built on top of Oasis because Oasis does not only provide us with the privacy coming from TEs, but also with the liveness coming from a blockchain. And we call these kind of like restrictions you add on top of TEs encumbrance policies. Everything is written in Solidity and everything is super easy to use. But yeah, what are encumbrance policies? They are basically the restrictions you add on top of a liquefaction wallet. on top of the private key that's encumbered. You could have a restriction, for instance, that only allows you to sign typed messages. And then you could liquefy that restriction once again to only allow for DAO votes and add another policy that restricts for metaverse logins. So now I could give you the DAO votes to sign to vote for a specific proposal, and then someone else the metaverse login, and you could both use the same account, same address, like the assets that are lying in the same account for different purposes. But yeah, that's what we basically do. You can have two people agree on sharing an account that has different assets and use them differently. There's many applications that come from BAT. I'm gonna not go through them one by one, but there's so like these three. Then we got like the dark DAO I mentioned, sell locked or vested token, which semi-liquid is doing now. There's bypassing identity airdrops, some really clean implementation of privacy pools. Private fundraising, you've heard about Constitution DAO, dusting attack mitigation, overlay smart contracts on top of blockchains that don't allow them. But what I'm here to talk about is what we built. It's the Take My Ape demo. This demo basically allows anyone to own an ape. What does owning an ape mean in that sense? When it comes to liquefaction, owning the ape is basically being able to do anything you would with the ape, but transferring it to someone else. Because if you could transfer it to anyone, you could just steal it. So I'm gonna show this example. I actually, how that works is every 15 minutes, an auction is opened. Anyone can bid in rows. I want this ape for 7 cents, I think. So I now get to own it for 15 minutes just for 7 cents. And here I can see you own the ape 8180. You can see how to auction, all the steps in the how to use. There's a couple of videos here showing it. But I think the cool part is what you can actually do. What do you get from owning the ape? You legally get full copyright ownership on top of the ape according to Yuga Labs' copyright license. So for instance, that's IC3, my lab, hosting a website with the ape I own. What if I don't want them to use that image? Because I own copyright. I could just restrict them from doing it. And now in about 10 seconds, it's gonna blur the image. But you can do even like more things. You can log into places where you can only log in if you have the ape. For example, let's see if it blurred the image. Yeah, it blurred the image. It even put a mask on this cute ape here. But I can now go here. This is a website that allows me to kind of play with the ape if I own it. And I can try to connect my wallet. The wallet I'm trying to connect is the encumbered wallet that has the private key hidden in the TE. So how do I do that? I go to my wallet here, and I connect with Wallet Connect. It's gonna ask me for a couple of things, and now I can just sign in. And that basically what signing in usually in blockchain terms does is it asks you to sign a nonce, the website, and I just signed in nonce. What's doing now is asking for the smart contract in Oasis to sign that nonce. And once it has the signature, it's gonna send it back to the website. And I'm signed in with the 0xe7, this account. If I go to, for instance, Etherscan, you can see here that this account owns an ape. And I just logged into a website with an account that owns the ape. So now I can go into that website and see the ape I own. I can play with it. Well, there's many things you can do. Even if there's like a live event happening, I think there's the Bored Ape Yacht Club pool party in Lisbon sometime a year. You could even go into that party for 5 cents, which is pretty crazy. You can even sign any message you want with that account to kind of prove ownership to whoever you want. It's just the same idea. You go here. And now when I'm back here, I can be like, hello, ETHDam. And same thing, it asks me to sign this message. Approve. And here, and I can publish it. So yeah, you can sign any message, any transaction, as long as the transaction is not transferring the ape to another account. So yeah, I encourage you all to try to steal the ape from me anytime. It now works when the gas price is under 2 gwei. There's been some crazy days these past 2 days. There was a MemeCon launch 3 days ago. There was some Pectra thing happening yesterday. So the gas price has been crazy high. You may probably see it's really, really high now. But whenever it's under 2 gwei, you can steal it from me and you can play with it. You can even after 1 month after owning the ape, you can get the private key out of the TE and actually own an account that at some point own a Bored Ape. So yeah, this is what we have done. And this is the website for anyone to try to steal the ape from me. And this is the paper. The main author is James Oskin. I worked on it. But there's many adversarial use cases, as I mentioned. I mean, no one wants people to start sharing soulbound tokens that maybe steal their identities or selling DAO tokens in the first place. So another project that my lab worked in a couple of years ago was called Complete Knowledge, which is a way to kind of stop liquefaction. It's complete knowledge is a proof that the person actually knows the private key. So you can only create a complete knowledge proof if the key is not encumbered. There may start being some DAOs that start implementing this as a kind of protection to encumbrance, but there's many also good use cases of liquefaction. So it's kind of a double-edged sword that one of the edges can be protected with complete knowledge. So the conclusion of the talk is that ownership will be harder to determine. Now you can have an account that on Ethereum shows that someone owns an ape and has some DAO tokens, but it not be the case that only one person owns both. Yeah, now account sharing is possible, and you can't enforce ownership constraints unless you start using complete knowledge. And yeah, everything's happened privately. So when people say we are not going to allow delegation on a DAO, they better start using CK. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.